All right, back for another Thursday night tasting, bourbon tasting. Some people last week were asking to learn a little bit more. So everything that I taste and do a tasting with and rank is a bourbon. So to be a bourbon, it has to be aged in oak barrels for 4 years in the United States. So most bourbons go from about 4 years, and there's some bourbons you can get that have been aged 23, 24 years. Most bourbons, I would say, are around that 6, 7 year mark is how long they're aged in the barrel. It gets its color from the barrel itself. So when the whiskey goes into the barrel, it's actually clear like water. And then the inside of the barrel is actually charred with fire, and then they put the whiskey in, and that's where you get this color 4 years later, 5 years later, 7 years later. A whiskey obviously can be aged. I think it's 2 to 4 years, but anything under 4 years can be a whiskey. Whiskeys can also be made out of the United States. What makes bourbon unique is the 4 years and inside the United States. There's also, when I talk about some of the bottles that I'll have, it'll say single barrel or small batch. Obviously a single barrel, that bottle and probably about 250 to 300 other bottles came out of that single barrel, that one barrel. So all of those would have the same characteristics. A small batch is a few barrels that they dump all together. You'll see some of the bottles I have will say small batch. And then some of them will say bottled in bond, which means it's at the same distillery, watched over by the same distiller, and it came out of the same barrel, I believe, is the 3 characteristics of bottled in bond. Anyway, I am going to start my tasting, and then I'm going to do a little better job of talking about what the bottles that won or didn't win or whatever, how I ranked them, what they are, and show those. This first one, just from smelling it, seems to have a little proof. Really, a lot of cherry smell in here, like you dipped up one of those cherries that you get in the jars right in some chocolate and just ate it. Very good smell to it. Ooh, she's a little proofy, which means that's going to be over 100 proof or close to it. That's a good whiskey. I mean, that's a good bourbon right there. Nice full taste. You feel it in the back of your jaws. Again, you'll hear me talk about up front and then finish. Up front is what you taste up front, how it makes your mouth feel, and then your finish is basically how it feels in your chest. Do you feel that warmth throughout the whole swallow? That has up front and balance and a good warm feeling. That's a good bourbon. That's a good bourbon right there. All right, so I'll go to number 2. And again, these are, some people rank theirs with proof. So hey, you put 4 90 proofs together and you say, okay, now rank these 90 proofs. I just, of the 50 bottles I have, we just pull them off the shelf and I try. And actually, these four are bourbons that I have not tried. These are new that I've bought and just have not tried yet. So new for me too. This does not have much smell. This is not going to have much alcohol content. And it doesn't even have a really good smell to it. Like very, almost like nothing. No smell to it. That's a different bourbon. Very unique taste to that. Very unique. Good. That's a good bourbon, even though it doesn't really have a good smell. It has a great taste. Ton of upfront flavor. A ton. That's a good bourbon. Very unique taste to that. I'll be interested to see what that is. And after those two, that's a tough decision just after the first two. Very interesting. When I haven't had these before, I know what I've bought. I just don't know. You know, yeah, this bourbon, that number 2 bourbon, doesn't have a ton of finish. Not like the first one, but pretty close. But it had a lot of upfront. That's a good bourbon. I'll be anxious to see what that is. This has a little floral notes to it. It's not strong. Weak on the smell, or maybe I'm not smelling well tonight. But a little weak on the smell. Again, no, on this number 3, no up front. No up front. No, you just get a little bourbon taste and no up front. But it does have some back end, which I like. So you like that. I like what you're looking for. If you wanted an everyday drinking bourbon, you want to taste it, and then you want the back of your jaws to feel it, and then you want that heat down the middle, that full feeling. That's a full bourbon. And a lot of times you only get that with the higher proofs. So the 101s to 111s to 121s, as high as, I want to say 136 might be as high as I've tasted. After that, you start getting into some moonshine. So I'm going to try this number 3 again. It's so funny. I wish y'all could taste them with me so I could really explain the front end from the back end. Like, this has no front end. There is no taste, but a lot of back end. So you get that burn, that full feeling, but you just don't get it in the mouth. You don't get it in the jaws. You only get it in the chest. So this bourbon has only finish, where the other two had both. They had all characteristics to a good bourbon, and the second one had a very unique flavor. So the second one, really, you're getting like 4 facets of a bourbon in one. I probably should do a live video instead of posting these, so you could ask questions, even though I don't see very well, so I'd have to wear glasses. But if you ask questions, and I'm toying with the YouTube thing, so if you go to RVA Bourbon on YouTube, that's where I post these videos, and you can watch them there. And then as they progress and the more tastings I do, I will start to put on some live videos or go live on YouTube to where you can ask questions if you have them. I'm no expert by any state, but I do know a good bourbon when I taste one. That's number 4. It's funny, all these bourbons, like I've had some bourbons that were bad. I mean, I've had some bourbons that are just not that good, but all these are pretty good. This 4th one, if I smell something, I would say a little floral and a little banana. A little banana smell, a little sweet candy smell, some cinnamon notes in there. And when you smell it, you'll know it. It's like when that first one, when I said that, the cherries dipped in chocolate, you if I say it to you, then you'd be like, oh yeah, I do smell that. Has great up front. Not a ton of finish, but that's a good bourbon too. This is tough. So I've gone through all 4. I will actually start back the other way. So with the number 4, and then I'll try to rank these. This is probably going to be really tough, other than I do know what I feel like is going to be last place, just because it wasn't a bad bourbon. It just didn't live up to the other 3 that I have. I know I don't do well at looking at the camera. I look off into space. I look everywhere but the camera, so sorry. All right, back to number 4. A lot of upfront. Like, you get everything right behind your teeth. All that taste right behind your teeth. Not a ton in the back of the throat, not a ton down the chest. Doesn't mean it's a bad bourbon. I'm just giving you the characteristics that I get from it. Banana, and there's, I want to say like a sweet caramel candy, like one of those, caramel, whatever you call them, just a caramel candy. She got a little heat. A little heat. Not as much as 1 and 2. But as of right now, that's actually a 3rd place. This is the one I felt like didn't have. See, now as I go back through, the bourbon opens up a bit, and you taste some different notes. Let me smell some different notes and taste some different notes. Now this is opened up a little bit, so I can smell. I didn't smell anything hardly the first time, and it's starting to open up a bit, and I can smell a little more of the sweetness. Again, you'll hear the kind of the same things with bourbon. You'll hear cherries, chocolate, oaky, caramel, and then sometimes you'll hear bubble gum. You can smell like a big league chew bubble gum, or the old fashioned bubble gum. All right. No up front. It's so weird. That's definitely a fourth place bourbon. It actually is so weird because it has no upfront taste, but not a lot of back end, but some burn in the chest. So not even, it's almost like you don't even taste that, but you can feel it. Which, to me, I want to taste my bourbon. I want it to really be silky and smooth and coat your mouth like a Hershey's Kiss. If you suck on it and it goes away and you just get that coating of chocolate. We'll go to number 3, which I thought was unique as heck. Number 2, sorry. Number 2, it's unique as heck. I will be really interested to see what this is. I think it's going to be something that, so sometimes bourbon, some makers like Barrel Bourbon, they experiment with putting their bourbon in a wine barrel or a cognac barrel. After they've taken that out, they put the whiskey in it and then age it for 6-7 years, and it takes on some of the characteristics of that. This, if I had to guess, I actually have a guess for this. There's a whiskey I bought from Barrel Bourbon called Dovetail, and that would be my guess. This is such a unique taste, and I know that Dovetail is, I want to say it was in sherry barrels or cognac barrels. That's good. Very unique. But a good whiskey. It's going to be 1 or 2. It's going to be my first or second choice. All right. Back to one, which I thought was very good. Full, proofy. It's a good bourbon. It's a good bourbon. It's a good... Wow. That is going to be tough. So, oh Lord. I am going to rank these now. This 1 and 2. This one that was very unique. I am going to give it an edge. I mean, a slight edge over number 1. So this number 2 is going to be my winner tonight by a slight, very slight margin. This number 1 was very good. That was a very good bourbon. But we'll go with last place is going to be number 3. Very little, had a little burn on the back end, but really a non-tasting bourbon. Like, you could have drank that and be like, what was that again? So, what was number 3?
Did you rank the rest of them?
This is the last place winner. It's number 3. last place loser.
This one.
All right. Wow. So this this Woodinville, which a lot of people love it. As an everyday drinker, I mean, I will probably put this in a lineup again. I usually like to put my losers that from the past weeks, and I've done this. I've only posted 2, but I've done 5 or 6 actual tastings, and I like to put the losers in a category and pick the best of the losers. But everybody loves this, and they think it's a great bourbon. In my lineup tonight, it was a average at best bourbon, but it's a 90 proof, so I knew it wasn't over 100, wasn't strong. Would I drink it again? Or obviously I'm going to drink it again. Would I buy it again? Unless I put it in another tasting and it just something opens up on this and it, I would not. But that was my last place. So we'll go to the third place, which would be number 4. And this is Old Grandad. So, this was my third place tonight. This Old Grandad, you can get, I want to say it's 20 bucks, 24 bucks, 25 bucks. It is a cheaper, like that bourbon I gave the 4th place to, that Woodinville. I think Woodinville is, I want to say a $40 bottle. This is a $25 bottle of bourbon. And sometimes you get that. I mean, you're when you get a $25 bottle of bourbon, that's what you get, $25 bottle of bourbon. But it was not bad. I'm impressed with a $25 bottle of bourbon versus what everybody was talking about, that Woodinville. I think it's actually won some awards. That did not impress me, even compared to this. I would buy this at $25 versus that at $40. So this Old Grandad was my my third choice tonight in the tasting. All right, I'm gonna. Number 1 is my second choice tonight. The number 1. But it is a very good bourbon, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was great.
Number 1.
Yeah. Yeah. So I picked this up today. People are talking about it. Actually, this won awards at the San Francisco 2020 San Francisco. They have these international, or not international. They have these, I think it's a National Spirits Award. This Baker's, I think it is a $50 bottle of bourbon, but that is a very good bourbon to go out and get. You really want to know what bourbon tastes like. You really want to have a decent bourbon. This Baker's is very good. It's a 7-year-old bourbon. Actually, I think it says minimum of 7, and somewhere it will tell me. So this was, minimum of 7. 7 years and 1 month. So 7 years and 1 month. This Baker 7, a very, very good bottle of bourbon. I would strongly recommend it. I would buy it again. Just picked it up today. A lot of people had been talking about it. It's a cool bottle. Some people are into the bottles and what they have on the tops, and the story behind bourbon. It's pretty cool. I mean, if you've been cooped up in the house for 3 months and want to learn something, Google bourbon. Google, the history of bourbon. It's pretty cool. It interests me. Doesn't interest everybody. So that was my second place, but very close to first place. Would strongly recommend Baker's. And my winner tonight was Johnny Drum. So Johnny Drum is when you can find it. You can't find it here. I don't think I've ever seen it in Virginia. I had this shipped to me from California from a website. You can actually have some stuff shipped to you. Johnny Drum was very, very good tonight. I could tell you this is a 100 proof. Baker's, I think, is... All right. So if you go back in the video and you look at number 1, and I told you this is over 100 proof. Baker's is actually 107. It's 107 proof, and I could tell it just from the smell and then the taste. When you have more than 100 proof, you really get that burn. Johnny Drum is actually 101 proof. It's just a great a bourbon. People had talked about it, and you can't get it here, so I actually had it shipped to me. A very good bottle of bourbon, and I don't think it's that expensive. Actually, I know it's cheaper than Baker's. I know it's cheaper than Woodinville. So if you pick you up a bottle of Johnny Drum or Baker's, either one, you will not be doing wrong at all. So bourbon doesn't have to be expensive. This is a very, very good bottle of bourbon at a cheap price. I just don't think you can get it here in Virginia. This is actually a Willet product. If you get familiar with the bourbons, Willet is one of the big guns in the bourbon industry. Mainly known for their rye. Willet rye, probably, if you could find a very aged 12-year-old Willet rye, would probably cost you, I would guess, a $1,000 a bottle, but very good. So anyway, I appreciate y'all taking the time. If you made it this far, if you clicked on for a minute and got off, then you missed some good stuff. So I appreciate it. Thank you much.